Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. First of all, I must apologize for not posting a video last weekend, and that was because I was going on a vacation. So guys, I am currently in Cape Town. I am here for my vacation. I have been working 11 months back to back, and it was time for me to just take a vacation. And guys, look at my view from the bedroom. That is the shore. Yes guys, you're seeing correctly. Yes. Let me know if you want to see a video of a tour of my Airbnb. I promise you, it is amazing, it is cute, it is everything. I will recommend it to anyone who is coming to Cape Town, and I can assure you, you won't regret it. Look at the view. These windows from ceiling to the floor, as you can see, can actually open. But if I should open this, it's going to be so loud, and it is very windy. So let me try to open it from here. There it is. And this also opens up from here, and I have a view of the beach. As you can see, my hands are out. So guys, I love this Airbnb in Cape Town, and I can recommend it to anyone. So this is actually like an apartment complex, very cute. I believe it has 15 floors, and I am currently on the 5th floor. Oh my goodness, the feeling of the wind on my skin, it's so giving. Yes. Anyways, I digress. If you want to see a video of a tour of this Airbnb, drop a comment tour in the comment section, and I'll be very excited to make that video, so you guys can see, kind of glimpse of what my life is going to be looking like whilst I am on vacation in Cape Town, South Africa. I just want to close this window right now so that we can make this video and it is less windy and less noisy. There we go. So the title of my video today is going to be "Your co-workers are not your friends." I actually watched another nurse's video where he said that your co-workers are not your friends, and I totally agree with it. Come closer, all the new nurses. Let me tell you guys something. I know the excitement of becoming a nurse. I know the excitement of wanting to learn. I know the excitement of feeling like you have to rely on the seniors. Actually, I know I've always vouched for new nurses, always, reaching on to the experienced nurses and asking them questions, because honestly, that is the only way you are going to learn. That is the only way you are going to become much more confident on the job. But let me tell you one thing: your co-workers are not your friends. I'm going to repeat it again. Your co-workers are not your friends. Let me tell you one thing that happened to me one day. Back in the days, I think this was like 2 years ago, where I come from Texas. And so in Texas, we can actually draw labs from a central line, which, a patient would need it for dialysis. Now, if you don't know, I'm a travel nurse, and I've worked all my travel nurse contracts in New Mexico, and I didn't know that in this particular hospital it was against policy not to use the patient's dialysis access to draw lab values. But tell you what, the only reason why I had to go ahead and draw labs for this patient from their central line, which was the dialysis access, was because this patient was a heart sick. Imagine a patient who was actively bleeding, and they were monitoring their INRs, they were monitoring their platelets, and this patient was a heart sick. Labs, phlebotomies had been into the patient's room. 5 different phlebotomies had been to the patient's room, and it was so difficult for them to get blood from this patient. Now, what was I supposed to do? I quickly had to step in and try to get blood from this central line. I know I should have asked the charge nurse what the protocol was, but again, like I said, I come from Texas, and in Texas we are allowed to draw labs for lab values from a central line which patients actually use for dialysis. In this case, in this hospital, they don't. Now, when I drew the labs, and the phlebotomist who actually came to collect the blood was so happy that I saved her that, sticking the patients multiple times to be able to get blood. Mind you, I said this was the 5th phlebotomist who had come to get this lab drawn. This patient was super heart sick. So what ended up happening was I sent these labs, and then I think this lab value was like a Q6, meaning that I had to keep checking it every 6 hours. which meant that I had done this twice for my shift. I remember sometime around like 11 and sometime around like 4 or 5, I drew the labs, you know, saving time for the phlebotomists and the lab people, because hey, we needed those lab values like ASAP. We needed it coming in. And during bedside shift change with the day shift nurse, if you don't know, I work night shift. So the day shift nurse, when I was telling her, hey, this patient is a heart stick, make sure that, you know, lab people have been here several times and they keep sticking the patient, they are unable to get labs. So I just went ahead and drew labs from the patient's central line, which was a dialysis access, because this patient was for some reason this patient just kept being hyperkalemic, which means the patient was always having high potassiums, and so the patient was on dialysis, the patient was on lactulose, the patient was on I think K-Xylate, something to help the patient poop. So whilst we were monitoring the patient's INR, platelets, the patient was also pooping, and we were just constantly cleaning this patient. And I kid you not, this patient was so big. It was like a very big patient that needed 3 people to change the patient. Anyways, moving on to the bedside shift change with the day shift nurse. When she came and I was telling her, hey, I had to go ahead and draw labs for this patient because the patient was a heart stick, you know, she was listening and writing down and everything. And then the next thing I knew, after I had given all my shift report, I saw her talking to the charge nurse, the day shift charge nurse. And I come around and I hear her saying, oh, do you know that Stephanie actually pulled, you know, labs for this patient in this room for labs, which that access, the central line is actually meant for dialysis. And the charge nurse was like, what, really? She really did that? Tell you what, after the nurse had, you know, after they had finished talking, the charge nurse came and met me in one of the patient's rooms. Apparently, I still had something to do in one of my patient's room. She came and she met me, and I told her, hey, I overheard the nurse saying that I drew labs from the patient's central line, which was a dialysis access, and what seemed to be the problem. She said, oh, we are not allowed to draw labs. I'm like, okay, I am so sorry. I didn't know that, because where I come from in Texas, we actually do that. And I was like, I didn't know. Tell you what, there are certain things that I feel like if it does not kill the patient, if the patient is not in any imminent danger, you can just, you know, try to fix it, cover it up without necessarily throwing this nurse under the bus. This is just me. I cannot tell you how many times I've walked into a patient's room, you know, during bedside shift change, and I've seen IV bags just hanging there that were never given. I've seen IV bags that had to be mixed, but they were not mixed, meaning that the powder was still standing there, but the liquid or the NS has actually gone through, meaning the patient just got NS and nothing else, not even the antibiotics. I have seen situations wherein a nurse actually hung vancomycin, and the vancomycin was never given, and the next one was scheduled. Anyways, I had to bring that one up because vancomycin is one of those IV medications that you know, it's kind of measured, because you have to measure like the trough, and you know, knowing that the vancomycin is still maybe in the patient's system if they need to dose it up or dose it down. So that was the only reason why I brought that up, and I wasn't bringing that up just to put that nurse into any trouble. I was bringing it up to the pharmacies so that they know that, hey, for the next dose, this is how it should be given, because the previous one was not given. I feel like there is no need to throw your fellow nurse under the bus, because guess what? We all make mistakes. I have seen even charge nurses make mistakes. I have seen experienced nurses make mistakes. Fast forward, this same nurse who went and reported me to the charge nurse that I had actually drawn blood from the central line of this patient who was actually receiving dialysis from that access, guess what happened? Another day she had to give me shift change report, and you know, a patient was started on heparin, and guess what? She started this patient's heparin on 0.17 mils per hour. Can you beat that? She started the patient's heparin on 0.17. I think the lowest dose that heparin should run on is probably something greater than at least one, but she had started the patient's heparin on 0.17. This is a number I will never forget, because this nurse, I know she was 2 years like more experienced than me, but for her to think that she had to bring up that issue of me drawing labs from the patient central line and throwing me under the bus, and yeah, this is heparin, which is like a very high sensitive drug in the hospital, and you started it on this patient with the wrong dosage. Hey, between the patient whom I drew labs from the central line, which was only meant for dialysis, and this patient who was started on heparin running at a very minimal minute dosage of 0.17, who was more at risk for putting the patient at danger? I need someone to tell me. Please kindly drop a comment in the comment section, because this is me telling all new nurses out there, your co-workers are not your friend. I have had so many other examples when I talk to other nurses, and there are things that other nurses have done to them that I'm just like, really? And this same nurse who went and reported another nurse is the same nurse I have seen them done some things which I just overlook it and just be like, hey, you know what, the patient is still alive. I don't want you guys to think that I am totally ignoring the safety of my patient. I'm talking of simple things like, hey, maybe you know, the nurse who is kind of like thinking that they're very perfect and they always do the right thing. They are the same people who are going to maybe use a syringe or a needle and just keep it on top of the sharps container and not necessarily drop it in the sharps container. Those are the kind of things I'm talking about. This concerns the patient's safety, but what I just quickly do is I just pick it up, put it in the sharps container, and I move on. I don't need to bring it up and be creating a scene in the hospital. So please, nurses, be each other's keeper. You cannot be reporting another nurse for something minute, whereas the day that someone is going to see something about you, you just kind of brush it away and just make it seem like, oh, it didn't matter, it was just something very small. Be each other's keeper. If anything entails the patient's safety, I feel like we should all stand up and speak out. But if it's something very minute, I don't see why you should be taking it up to the upper management. I don't see why maybe in the course of me hurrying to do something, I probably did not, like I said, kept the syringe on top of the sharps container as opposed to inside the sharps container. I know that's a safety in case maybe there were kids in that room, but hey, just take it and drop it in the sharps container. You don't necessarily have to take it up to management. Believe me, I have had another nurse who reported another nurse for this particular scenario I am telling you about, a needle being kept on the sharps container. How petty can some nurses be? Like, how petty can some nurses be? And so to all the new nurses out there, let me tell you guys, your co-workers are not your friends. You are going to learn it the hard way the day that you are being stung by another nurse who pulled the rug under your feet. Your co-workers are not your friend. If you're new to my channel, please kindly subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. Join this bubbly family, and I'll see you in my next one. Stay safe, and remember, your co-workers are not your friend. Bye guys.